What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video. And I want to talk a little bit about Xbox today. So we all know that the traditional console war is pretty much over. And a lot of that's due to the recent moves that Microsoft and Xbox have been making. Xbox has pretty much announced that they are building a PC that you can put in your living room, which is quite honestly pretty interesting. And you're going to kind of get my thoughts as we roll through this. But yeah, it's an interesting perspective that Microsoft, as well as Asha Sharma, the new head of Xbox, is taking. Obviously, this was something that was built, that's kind of already been in the works under Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond, but we're kind of starting to see all the work they've done over the last couple of years kind of come into fruition. And is this really going to work? So currently, right now, is going on is GDC 2026, which is the Game Developer Conference in San Francisco. And Xbox is making themselves a pretty big presence over there, as well as Steam. But we're here mostly to talk about Xbox. And Project Helix was pretty much confirmed there that it is going to be a hybrid console PC that is capable of not just running your Xbox games, or specifically your Xbox PC games, but also your Xbox Series X games, potentially your Xbox One games, as well as what we're going to get into a little bit later, original Xbox, as well as the Xbox 360 and your Steam and Epic Games library, and potentially even your GOG, which is pretty interesting. They mentioned that the preservation team, it might be making a comeback as we return to backwards compatibility for the 25th anniversary. But yeah, I'm really excited to hear more about this as we progress. So as we all know, and that was announced about a year ago, that the new Xbox is going to be shipped with this custom SoC AMD chip that pretty much is going to be proprietary to Xbox, and is going to run this new specialized version of Windows that will now have this Xbox mode on top of basically Windows 11. It's going to be very similar to what we currently see now in the Xbox Ally X and the Xbox Ally. Now, this new Xbox mode will not just be exclusive to Xbox, but it will be officially released on all Windows machines starting this April. This actually piques my interest a little bit because I'm really curious to test out this feature and how much eliminating a lot of those Windows system resources will really help with performance in games, because we've seen a little bit of a performance boost from what we can gather from the handheld side of it, but we have to also take that with a grain of salt, because the percentages of what you would get from a handheld performance is not going to necessarily be apples to apples to what we see in a main PC. Now, the one big interesting aspect of this game is how is this new Xbox going to interact with Steam, Epic, GOG, all these other storefronts? Will it be seamless? Will Xbox make it seamless? Will they provide those custom APIs to these other game stores to make things a little bit easier to work? Or is it going to be something similar to what we see with the Xbox Ally X, where it's kind of like a plugin you put in and then it sends you somewhere else? Or will it kind of be more integrated nicely with it? I anticipate it probably won't. I think at the end of the day, Xbox does want people to buy off their platform or get Game Pass or whatever it might be. So I don't necessarily anticipate that they're going to make it super simple, but it could be pretty nice. I think regardless, people are going to find workarounds at how to integrate these things a lot better. But like I said, at the end of the day, this really piques my interest. I'm curious to see how much this can help boost performance on your Windows machine. Now, we have heard a little bit about what's going to be powering this new Xbox. Is going to be an RDNA 5 GPU. This thing, a lot of the specs and leaks and everything that's coming out, that it's going to be an absolute beast. I mean, we'll see as we learn more about the machine, but as somebody who's a fan of SteamOS, a massive fan of SteamOS, and loves his Steam Deck, and was strongly considering about getting a Steam machine, this new Xbox thing tends to start to be a little bit more enticing based on everything that we're hearing, as somebody who's kind of a hardware nerd in a lot of this stuff. And if Xbox can nail this performance that they're promising, this could be very enticing, not just for me, but for a lot of people, and can really disrupt the whole potential PC pre-built market. And this is more reason why Valve really needs to get the Steam machine out as soon as possible, because if all the price rumors and leaks are coming true, we're talking about a potentially a $1,000 Xbox. And if you had to choose between a $750 Steam machine versus a $1,000 new Project Helix Xbox, whatever that's going to be, we're talking about we're coming out as 50, 80 level performance with ray tracing. Now, like I said, that's very high in the sky right now, but if this is true by any sorts of the imagination, I mean, it's almost a layup answer that you pay the extra $250, $300 to get that Xbox, unless just for whatever reason you just refuse to get anything from Microsoft. But from the hardware side of it, it's hard to really argue with, quite honestly. And I think there's a space for this type of Xbox. Sure, there's a lot of people that are very hardcore about, no, I want a console, I want a console. Well, it may not matter if they really nail down the software and you don't really notice. Like, as somebody who uses Steam OS, I almost never go into the desktop mode. Now I do to tinker with like emulators and stuff like that, but how many people are really going to be doing that? At the end of the day, most people are just going to boot up, buy the games on Steam. Like, I could literally be on SteamOS and not even know that it's a PC. So I think a lot of people that are very upset, and including yourself if you're listening to this now, if they can nail it right, you may not even notice, to be honest with you. But we have to wait and see what happens. And one thing that the console market has to acknowledge is that the PC market is growing. Like, people are going from PC. I mean, I know this is a very personal anecdote, but as somebody who started off playing on Xbox 360 and had everybody, all friends playing on Xbox 360, I have an Xbox Series X, but I don't pay for online anymore. I pretty much just use it for certain single player games that are Xbox Play Anywhere. But now almost everybody I've played with and most people I talk to almost exclusively play on PC. And I'm sure I'm not the only one with that story. I mean, there's a lot of people that are slowly transitioning over, especially people that are getting old, who grew up during that generation with a console, are now becoming adults and have jobs that they can afford PCs now. So I do think there is an option for, if they can have something of this level, why build a custom PC or a pre-built PC that's pushing $2,000 for 5070 if we're talking about this new Xbox could potentially have 50 AV level performance? Like I said, this is very, very early, so we're going to have to learn more about it. But if we're just looking at what we know so far, it's a pretty good deal. And then if we look at people who are looking to upgrade as well, like, I'm almost in that market where I'm kind of ready to build a PC, but obviously I haven't done so with the whole RAM apocalypse and the RAM shortages and storage and all this other stuff, the AI bubble that's affecting everything. I've held off. But if it gets to the point where I look at this, and right now I pretty much just use my Windows machine as just a place to play games, and I use a MacBook to do anything else productive, something like an Xbox, kind of like this Project Helix Xbox, kind of fits into the scenario for me, for example. And I know I'm not the only one. Like, I know there's countless other people that are interested in PCs. I have a couple buddies that are interested in PCs, but they don't really know what to do. They're not very familiar with building PCs. They're not the most tech savvy people. But if you have just something that you say like, hey, get the Steam machine, or hey, get the Xbox, knowing them, if they have an Xbox library already and not really a Steam one, that's kind of a harder sell for these console people to go over to something like a Steam machine, because now they're just going to flat out lose their entire library versus going to an Xbox that will hopefully natively run their Xbox games. But one thing I like to say is that this all still hinges on the software experience. I have no doubt that Microsoft can put together a fine piece of hardware. I mean, the Xbox Series X is a really good piece of hardware. The problem is the software side of everything. Microsoft really, and just the Xbox team really needs to nail this, because Xbox cannot let Microsoft influence what they do. The sad thing is Microsoft probably will influence what Xbox does, because quite honestly, the Xbox software is not bad. I mean, it runs smooth. It always kind of has. Now, recently there tends to be ads everywhere, but the general smoothness and the quick resume and all the other features that come with the Series X, it's pretty seamless and pretty snappy. So the ability is there. It's just whether or not Xbox gets that opportunity to kind of work in isolation in that sense, and given that Windows 11 code. Now, one of the most exciting pieces of news that have come out of this was the 25th anniversary news, where VP Jason Ronald confirmed that the game preservation team is pretty much coming back. I mean, he was kind of a little vague with everything, but it sounds like that they want to bring back this preservation team and bring back iconic games from all four generations to this new system, which indirectly might affect just the PC market. So if you're just somebody who is interested in playing original Xbox games or Xbox 360 games that are not PC compatible or don't have a PC port, this is good for everybody who is into PC gaming. Like, this is amazing to be able to play something like that. This is awesome news. And as somebody who personally loves playing retro games, especially games that have been upgraded from back compat program now. Like right now, I'm playing Assassin's Creed, and the game feels amazing on modern hardware. Ubisoft, it was either Ubisoft or Microsoft. I don't know who did all the enhancements, but playing that game now versus original hardware, it is night and day. I mean, right now I'm playing it at a native 4K 60, like versus on the 360, it was probably like 720 30. It is a world of difference. And just imagine what we can do with even the unlocked potential of PC, maybe potentially mods where they can input higher frame rates on top of that. Now, obviously not every game is going to get that same kind of love and treatment, but we'll see. Another big thing I really want to see is some more OG Xbox games. Right now, there's only about 30 original Xbox games that you can play on the Series X, which is like nothing compared to the entire system library. I'm pretty sure the entire system library is about over 1,000 games, and those games will run pretty well. And those games have always run pretty well on backwards compatibility, because at the time, the original Xbox was the most powerful console of its generation. Like if you wanted to play Star Wars Battlefront or any of the Spider-Man games, almost any third-party game almost always played the best on an Xbox, so much so that a lot of the PC ports were based on the Xbox ports. But the real issue of all of it is like, it's too small of a library. These games, so much of these Xbox games are such hidden gems and no one really talks about them, and they're actually really cheap to get right now. So, and the emulation is not really great in terms of, if we look at the Zemu emulator, obviously it's getting better and more improved, but out of a lot of the other emulators out there for the other systems, it's towards the bottom of the most performant, and a lot of it's due to the system's architecture at the time. It's very complicated. I think Xbox emulation in general is pretty tough to do. One thing I'm really curious is if we're able to bring new life to these old 360 OG Xbox games to PC through emulation, what does that mean for multiplayer games? Will that be able to spin up servers again, or hosting, or whatever that could mean? And like right now, I know a big project that you can do in the original Xbox is Insignia, where you can play Xbox Live on the original Xbox, even though those servers were shut down. Now bringing that to PC, that kind of opens up this whole door of possibility of what can happen with these multiplayer games. Can people be able to build servers or do hosting connections or whatever it might be to kind of revitalize these games? Now, there's a lot of talk of using AI to remaster these 20-year-old games in real time without having the original devs to lift a finger. And quite honestly, this is one of the best use cases I've seen for AI. I know right now the whole DLSS news of DLSS 5 causing a big rift in the community. But this is a good scenario where I'm like, okay, auto HDR, AI remastering of games where potentially, who knows, the source code is just completely lost. I mean, a lot of these indie games that maybe came out on the original Xbox or the 360, some of these studios have been shut down. Who knows who has the actual source code to all that, and what games can actually be recompiled. So having something that can actually auto enhance it without the need of those developers can be really good for honestly everybody, and it can streamline the process of adding these games and revitalizing these games to the backwards compatibility library. Anything to help speed up and bring and make that library bigger is a plus, I think, for everybody, as long as it's done right and they don't ruin the integrity of the game. Now, one big question is, will they be able to figure out what are they going to be able to figure out the legal aspect of all these licensed games, because that's going to be a tough part as well. Now, I briefly mentioned the Xbox mode that's coming out in April. And this basically will turn your PC into an Xbox like interface. I'm really curious to see if this gets the juice out. Like I said, from what we saw on the handheld, it does a little bit, not a much. It really seems like it depends on the game or the way the game is optimized to kind of meet those specs, because maybe we don't see a lot due to like driver issues or potentially just optimizations, now knowing that people have that extra little bit of headway since Windows system resources aren't being used in that mode. Now, one thing I think that going to this PC console hybrid really does is having a unified JDK, like a game developer kit. This kind of eliminates the need for having a developer having to create so many different ports. Obviously, being able to create your PC port and your Xbox port at the same time helps streamline everything and helps bring more games, not just to PC, but more games to Xbox as well. And this will indirectly, I think, affect a lot of people by being able, similar to the Steam machine, being able to create a baseline or a benchmark to follow. Right now, they do some of the most popular cards, but even then certain cards have a certain amount of VRAM, or certain cards are overclocked, and there's just too much variance in the custom PC market that having something like the Project Helix machine or the Steam machine, let's say we could use the Steam machine for like low spec machines and then the Project Helix machine as the mid to higher range spec. This helps everybody, because then if developers actually tune for the Xbox, let's say, people who have specs higher than whatever this Project Helix machine is going to be, is just going to benefit, maybe not even from higher fidelity, but just from higher frame rate, which is good, because ideally the fidelity should already be pretty good at that Project Helix baseline. And I think this is where both these machines help everybody, because now having two places in a market that was traditionally just all over the place, or that is continued still all over it and probably will be, but having at least something to go based off of in the PC realm is really, really good. Now, does the idea of the console mean it's dead? And why is Microsoft doing this? I mean, likely I think they've realized that the writing is on the wall in the actual console market. And I think also Microsoft themselves want to kind of not necessarily eliminate Xbox, but want to kind of bring them in and not feel so separate, whether you agree with that or not. This seems like they're entering now a new realm of competing with Steam as well as the potential Linux users. And I know a lot of people want to look at Steam and SteamOS and Linux as a real threat, but if we look at the operating system war as it currently stands right now, the real threat to Microsoft is Mac OS. And Apple has actually been making strides to make porting to Mac more relevant. If we look at a game that's currently about to come out now in Crimson Desert, that game is natively going to support Mac at launch, which is pretty crazy and quite honestly pretty good for this industry, because now more people are going to be able to play on more devices. And while I love Linux and what it has to offer, I think the one competitor that Microsoft's really looking at is Apple, quite honestly, because those are going to be the users that are not really being met right now and potentially are in a market where they're going to buy games if it can run. Now, also the $1,000 question is, will people actually buy it at this price? I think so. I think depending on, it's going to be, you're narrowing down the market a little bit, obviously. Like if you're not a hardcore gamer, then maybe you don't spend the $1,000. But I think people who are casual gamers and play well and they have the money for it, to me, and they already have that Xbox library, to me, it's a kind of a layup answer. Or people that are just interested in getting into PC, even from the PlayStation side. Because as much as we like to say people are leaving Xbox and going to PC, there's still also a good amount of people that are leaving PlayStation to going to PC as well. I think just having the real disruption to me and what this console offers is the disruption to the pre-built market. I think that market is going to get hit the absolute most. And I also think in a weird way, I kind of like the play everywhere evolution. I know a lot of people didn't like, they felt like that was the downfall of Xbox, is when they started releasing games to PC as well. But as somebody who plays both PC and Xbox, I love that. I think it's a very consumer friendly thing to do, to be able to like play your games anywhere, quite honestly. Like, why do that's the one thing, and this might be a hot take for other people, is why do we want games locked behind a paywall? These are the same people that complain about Apple having a walled garden and making it tough for people to leave or enter into. But when it comes to video games, we want that. And I just don't necessarily buy that. I think it's good for everybody, even for the average casual person. If I buy a game and you tell me I can play it on my phone, I can play it on my PC, I can play it on my console, I can play it on my laptop, why is that a bad thing? It doesn't necessarily, to me as a consumer, why should I care? At the end of the day, I'm buying the game, I should be able to play it wherever I want, and I can. And I don't think it should be limited to one device, because what if I don't want to play on that device? You know, at the end of the day, you want to meet games where the game developers want to reach people where they're actually at. This is my final thoughts. Is this a smart move for Xbox? What do you think? This is something that I've been thinking about and letting the news kind of rile up. For sure, the one thing that kind of sparked me doing this whole video was the whole game preservation things. That is the biggest news, the most exciting news that I've heard out of everything that we got out of GDC. I really hope that comes to fruition. If you are excited about the potential of more backwards compatibility games coming to the series consoles or the Project Helix or just PC in general, let me know what games you want to see the most. And also, what original Xbox games do you want to see? Which 360 games? what out of everything you've heard so far, what is the most promising thing you've heard from Microsoft? Because I don't want to dive too deep into the negative because there's a lot of negatives to talk about. I kind of want to talk about some of the positives and what are some of the good things that we think that they're doing that is good just for the industry as a whole. But anyways, if you guys like the video, please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.